live for us in Washington, D.C. Let's discuss the U.S. support for Israel further now with Schaeffer Omer-Man, who's also in Washington. He's the Director of Research for Israel-Palestine at Dawn, that's Democracy for the Arab World Now. Thank you very much, Michael, for being with us. We've heard and seen the Biden administration's unwavering support for Israel in the past 2 weeks. But in his most notable public calls for restraint, he's also warned Israel against reoccupying Gaza. What's happening in the Biden administration right now? Are you seeing a change, a shift in positioning? What is the American private messaging right now on this war?
The public messaging is very clear, and that's full unconditional support for Israel, which is very disappointing considering what we're seeing being done with American weapons in Gaza, mass killings of civilians. There's this theory that the administration behind closed doors is using that full public support as a sort of bear hug to encourage restraint in some way, to actually condition the U.S. support. We're not seeing that because the Israelis are not doing that. It took a week from the time that President Biden flew to Israel to demand humanitarian aid be let into the Strip for it to actually get in. And the bombing has not ceased. And today we're seeing, more leaflets being dropped on northern Gaza suggesting that civilians who do not leave a certain location will be considered terrorists. Right. And we know that what that means.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the leverage, how much leverage the U.S. has right now. The White House has stepped back from President Biden's comment earlier, apparently agreeing that Israel should delay potential ground invasion of Gaza until more Hamas captives can get out. They say that the U.S. president didn't fully hear that question. Do you think Biden is in a position today to control the U.S. its ally, Israel?
The United States can have as much leverage as it wants to have, as much as there's political will for it to have. It supplies almost all of Israel's military hardware. Its diplomatic support is the only thing that's stopping very harsh Security Council resolutions and perhaps even a binding ceasefire directive from passing through the UN Security Council. So it has as much leverage as it wants to have. What we need right now is a ceasefire, and everything after that is important. But first, the United States can and should use its leverage to achieve that.
Yeah. The latest U.S. resolution that's being discussed, that's going to be discussed at the Security Council, doesn't mention any ceasefire. We've talked about the U.S. moving more assets into the region, and Biden also wants to secure a big military package for Ukraine on the one hand, we've heard, but also to support Israel's war. It's a big ask for the U.S. Congress, especially at a time when it's in crisis. Do you think this will pass, or are they progressive voices within the U.S. Congress that could put a hold on this?
I don't think there's enough support to oppose a measure like that. The biggest question is whether the Congress can function at all without a speaker and with all the disarray going on. But I think that in Congress, there's, despite increasing number of voices demanding ceasefire and demanding that U.S. policy serve Palestinian interests and rights as much as they do Israelis, that's not a large enough sentiment within the legislature, within the Congress to see any change.
Right. What about the American public? I know that Israel still holds far more sway in the court of public opinion in the U.S., but it would also appear that more Americans are warming to the Palestinian cause. What's changed, do you think?
Well, I think that people have been watching for long enough, and they understand the context. They understand that the context of this violence is, decades, 50 plus years of occupation, 16 years of siege, and an apartheid regime that's revealing its face more and more. And that's more difficult for Americans to reconcile their support with Israel with. And I think we're seeing a change in public opinion there. And, I'm not a public opinion expert, but I'm reading the polls and I see a change. And it's going to take time for that to go up to the political, to the centers of political power, but it will happen.
Okay, thank you for talking to us about this. Schaeffer Omer-Man from Dawn, Democracy for the Arab World Now. in Washington. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.